The state banquet was supposed to be flawless, controlled, almost untouchable. A room where every movement is rehearsed, every glance calculated, every inch of space carrying meaning older than anyone sitting in it. But something shifted, quietly, almost invisibly, and yet, the kind of shift that doesn't stay small for long. Because one step, just one, appeared to challenge something the palace has never truly resolved. And in that moment, the atmosphere cracked. Not loudly, not publicly, but unmistakably. And Catherine's reaction? It wasn't political, it wasn't strategic, it was immediate, raw, human, the kind of reaction that escapes before the system can contain it. And suddenly, the room that was built to hide emotion couldn't hide anything at all. Catherine saw it before most people even understood what they were looking at. A movement toward a chair. Just a chair, to anyone watching from a distance. But inside that room, inside that history, inside that family, it was never just a chair. It was something far heavier, something tied to memory, something tied to absence, something tied to a name the palace has never been able to move past, no matter how much time has passed. And as that realization settled in, Catherine's composure tightened, her hands stiffened slightly, her expression changed in a way only those closest would notice. Because this wasn't about protocol anymore, this was about meaning. And meaning inside the monarchy is dangerous. Around them, the machinery of royal order hesitated. Aides paused, eyes shifted. No one spoke, but the silence became louder than any interruption could have been. Because when something breaks protocol without being acknowledged, it creates a tension that spreads faster than words. And Catherine, she felt it instantly, not as a political calculation, not as a royal inconvenience, but as something deeply personal, something that touched a wound the palace has never truly healed. And that's when it happened, the moment she couldn't fully contain it anymore. The tears, not dramatic, not performative, but real enough to disrupt everything the room was trying to protect. William noticed. Of course he did. Before anyone else had time to react, he shifted closer, controlled, careful, almost protective in his movement. Not to create a scene, but to prevent one. Because he understood exactly what that chair represented, not as an object, but as a symbol. A memory, a connection to someone who, even in absence, still shapes the emotional structure of that family. And as he looked from Catherine to the chair, something inside him hardened, not visibly, not publicly, but enough to change the temperature around him. Because this wasn't just awkward, it wasn't just unexpected, it felt like a line, being tested. And then there was Charles, watching, processing, measuring, a man who has spent decades balancing history, duty, and personal choices suddenly facing a moment where those things don't align neatly anymore. Because this wasn't something that could be adjusted quietly, not something that could be corrected with a whisper or a signal. This carried emotional weight. And emotional weight inside the monarchy doesn't follow rules, it exposes them. The room understood before anyone said it out loud. Something had been approached that perhaps should have remained untouched, not because of tradition alone, but because of what it represented to the people standing there. And Catherine's reaction made that impossible to ignore. Because when emotion breaks through in a place designed to suppress it, it forces everyone to confront what they were pretending wasn't there. And here's where it gets more unsettling. Because this moment didn't begin here. It didn't start at the banquet. It didn't start with that movement. It started earlier, quietly, away from cameras, away from the public. In a setting where words carry more risk because there's no audience to soften them, a private rehearsal, a controlled environment. The kind of place where ideas are tested before they're ever seen. And in that space, something was said, something subtle, something that didn't sound explosive at first, but carried implications that would later echo into this exact moment. What happened at that banquet table was never just about a moment, it was the visible eruption of something that had already been building beneath the surface. Quietly, carefully, almost deliberately avoided. Because inside institutions like this, tension doesn't explode without warning, it leaks. It shows itself in hesitation, in half-finished sentences, in the kind of silences that feel heavier than words. And by the time the banquet began, the outcome may not have been decided, but the conflict already was. That earlier rehearsal dinner, the one no cameras recorded, carried more weight than anyone wanted to admit. Because when the idea of updating tradition entered the room, it didn't arrive as confrontation. It arrived as suggestion. Soft, measured, reasonable on the surface. But beneath that surface, it carried a question no one had fully answered. What happens when the present tries to reposition the past? And more importantly, who gets to decide when memory stops holding its place? Catherine understood the implication immediately, not because it was spoken loudly, but because it didn't need to be. Some things inside that family don't require explanation. They're felt instinctively, and when she placed her glass down that night, it wasn't just a reaction, it was recognition. Recognition that something symbolic was being moved into negotiation. And once something becomes negotiable inside a system like that, it rarely stays contained. William's response, even then, was controlled. Almost too controlled. Because restraint in those moments doesn't mean absence of feeling, it means the opposite. It means something is being held back deliberately. And his question afterward, directed quietly to someone who would know, revealed more than any confrontation could have. Because hesitation is information. And the moment there was hesitation, the reality became clear. This wasn't hypothetical. It had already been discussed. Already considered, already edged closer to action than anyone publicly acknowledged. By the time the banquet began, the room wasn't neutral anymore. It was carrying the residue of that earlier moment, and when that movement toward the chair happened, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like continuation. Like something unfinished suddenly being tested in real time. And that's why Catherine's reaction wasn't confusion. It was recognition. Painful, immediate recognition of something she had already sensed coming. When she spoke quietly, controlled, it wasn't to challenge authority, it was to question meaning. Because the issue was never the chair itself, it was what the chair represented. And representation, inside a monarchy built on symbolism, is everything. You can rearrange objects, you can adjust positions, but when you touch meaning, you trigger something far deeper. Something emotional, something historical, something that doesn't resolve neatly. And that's where everything shifted. Because once emotion entered the moment openly, the structure around it started to lose control, not visibly, not chaotically, but subtly. Enough for those watching closely to understand that this wasn't going to disappear quietly. William stepping in didn't escalate the situation, it clarified it. His presence wasn't aggressive, it was definitive, a boundary, expressed without needing volume. And in spaces like that, clarity can be more powerful than confrontation. Charles, caught in the center of it all, faced something far more complex than protocol. Because protocol offers solutions, this didn't. This was about perception, about loyalty, about how decisions, real or perceived, reshape relationships that already carry history. And once that history is activated, it doesn't respond to instruction, it responds to feeling, which makes it unpredictable. The removal of that seating card, small as it seemed, became the turning point. Not because it solved anything, but because it acknowledged that something had gone too far to be ignored. It was a correction, yes, but also an admission. An admission that the system itself had come close to crossing a line it couldn't easily redefine afterward. And in that moment, the chair left empty became more powerful than if anyone had ever sat in it. Because emptiness, in that context, wasn't absence, it was presence. A reminder, a statement without words, and everyone in that room understood it. Some accepted it, some resented it. But no one could dismiss it anymore. And even as the banquet continued perfect on the surface, seamless to the outside world, something underneath had shifted permanently. Because once a boundary is tested, it doesn't return to its original state. It changes. It becomes visible. It becomes something people watch for next time. And that's the part that lingers. Because the real question isn't what happened that night. The real question is what it revealed. About power, about memory, about who decides what stays, and what is allowed to move. And now that that question has surfaced once, it doesn't simply disappear again.